hired a cleaning lady for my house. An hour later, she called me, whispering, "Is anyone else supposed to be in the house?" Confused, I replied, "No, why?" "There's a woman upstairs." Trembling, I shouted, "Get out of there now," and called the police. I could hear the panic in Annie's voice as she whispered through the phone. "There's someone upstairs in your house, and I don't think it's your daughter." My heart stopped. I was supposed to be at my doctor's appointment. Who could possibly be in my home? As I frantically dialed 911 with trembling fingers, I never could have imagined the truth that was about to unfold. A truth that would change everything I thought I knew about my family. I've lived in the same two-story house on St. Mary Street for over 40 years. At 68, I'm not as spry as I once was, and keeping up with the cleaning has become more challenging with each passing year. My hands ache from arthritis when I scrub the bathroom tiles, and the vacuum cleaner feels heavier than it used to when I push it across the living room carpet. Getting older isn't for the faint of heart. I'd often tell my daughter Rachel during our weekly phone calls, but I've always been proud and fiercely independent. I raised Rachel on my own after my husband Jim passed away, when she was only 12. For nearly 30 years, I'd managed everything by myself. The house, the bills, the yard work. Never wanting to burden anyone, especially not my daughter who now lives 3 hours away with a busy career as a nurse. It was Rachel who first suggested hiring someone to help with the cleaning. "Mom, it's not giving up independence," she had insisted during our call last Sunday. "It's being smart about how you use your energy." I had initially bristled at the idea. "I don't need strangers rummaging through my things," I'd said. But when I slipped on the wet bathroom floor last month while scrubbing the tub, thankfully only bruising my hip rather than breaking it, I had to admit that perhaps Rachel had a point. I know a lovely woman who cleaned for Mrs. Patterson down the street before she moved to the retirement community. My neighbor Kim had told me over tea last week. Her name is Annie. She's trustworthy and does a wonderful job. I'll give you her number if you'd like. So, on this bright Tuesday morning in October, I had finally relented. Annie was scheduled to arrive at 10 o'clock for her first cleaning session. I had spent the previous evening tidying up, cleaning for the cleaner, as Rachel had teased me, making sure nothing embarrassing was lying around. At exactly 10, the doorbell rang. Annie was a pleasant woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a warm smile. She wore simple jeans and a blue t-shirt with her cleaning supplies neatly organized in a caddy. "You must be Mrs. Morgan," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Anya Walker. It's so nice to meet you." "Please call me Rosaline," I replied, instantly warming to Annie's friendly demeanor. I invited her in and gave her a tour of the house, pointing out what needed special attention and which cleaning products I preferred. "I have a doctor's appointment at 11. I explained as I showed Annie the upstairs bathroom. "Just a routine checkup, nothing to worry about. I should be back by 1 at the latest. Is that enough time for you today?" "That's perfect," Annie assured me. "I'll start downstairs and work my way up." As I grabbed my purse and cardigan, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that I was finally getting help, but also an odd vulnerability at having a stranger in my home. I'd lived alone for so long that sharing my space, even temporarily, felt like a significant change. "The spare key is in the kitchen drawer if you need to step out for any reason," I told Annie before leaving. "And my cell phone number is on the notepad by the phone if you need to reach me." Annie nodded, already pulling on rubber gloves and organizing her cleaning supplies. "Don't worry about a thing, Rosaline. Your house will be sparkling when you get back." The doctor's office was only a 15-minute drive away, in the small downtown area of Millfield. It was a routine appointment, blood pressure check, discussion about my arthritis medication, the usual questions about how I was managing at home. Dr. Stevens had been my physician for over 20 years, and always took extra time with his older patients, never rushing us through our concerns. "Your blood pressure is looking good, Rosaline," Dr. Stevens said, making notes in my chart. "How's the new medication working for your joints?" "Better than the last one," I replied. "I can open jars again, which is a small miracle." We chatted about my recent activities, my garden which was my pride and joy, and the latest book from my reading club. Dr. Stevens always made me feel like a person, not just another elderly patient to hurry through. After the appointment, I decided to treat myself to lunch at the small cafe across from the doctor's office. I rarely ate out alone, but today felt special somehow. A day of new beginnings with hiring help for the first time. I ordered a bowl of tomato soup and half a chicken sandwich, comfort food that reminded me of lunches I used to make for Rachel when she came home from school. As I stirred my soup, my thoughts drifted to my daughter. Rachel had been so worried about me living alone, especially since the fall. Maybe this was a good first step to show her that I was being sensible about aging. Perhaps I could even surprise her by inviting her to stay next weekend, now that the house would be professionally cleaned. Just as I was taking the last bite of my sandwich, my cell phone rang. I fumbled in my purse, not immediately recognizing the number on the screen. It took me a moment to realize it must be Annie calling from the house phone. "Hello." I answered. "Rosaline." The voice on the other end was hushed, almost a whisper. It was Annie, but she sounded strange, tense and frightened. "Yes, it's me. Is everything all right?" I felt a flutter of concern. Annie's next words sent a chill down my spine. "Is anyone else supposed to be in the house?" Confused, I replied. "No, why?" There was a pause, and when Annie spoke again, her voice was barely audible. "There's a woman upstairs." My heart began to pound. "What? Are you sure?" "Yes," Annie whispered. I heard noises in the bedroom at the end of the hall. Then I saw her walk across the hallway into the bathroom. She didn't see me. Trembling, I shouted into the phone. "Get out of there now. I'm calling the police." I heard Annie's quickened breathing, the sound of movement. "I'm heading out the back door now," Annie whispered. "I'll wait in my car until the police come." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely end the call and dial 911. My mind raced with terrible possibilities. A burglar? Someone who thought the house was empty? But Annie had said it was a woman. Who could be in my home? As I waited for the 911 operator to answer, a strange thought crossed my mind. The spare bedroom at the end of the hall had been kept exactly as it was when Rachel moved out 15 years ago. What if someone was looking for something in there? But what could possibly be in my daughter's old room that would interest an intruder? 911, what's your emergency? The operator's calm voice finally came through. "Someone has broken into my house," I said, my voice quavering. "I'm not there, but my cleaning lady just called. She's hiding in her car now. Please send someone quickly." The police arrived at my house within minutes of my call. As I pulled up to the curb, I could see 2 patrol cars with flashing lights parked in my driveway. My quiet, tree-lined street rarely saw any excitement beyond the occasional lost pet or delivery truck. And now my neighbors were peering out their windows at the commotion. Annie was standing next to her small blue sedan, talking to a police officer. She looked shaken but composed as she gestured toward the house. When she spotted me, she rushed over, her face etched with concern. "I'm so sorry about all this," Annie said, wringing her hands. "I was cleaning the downstairs bathroom when I heard footsteps upstairs. I thought maybe you'd come back early, but then I remembered you said you'd be gone until 1. I patted her arm reassuringly. "You did exactly the right thing, dear. Are you all right?" A tall officer with kind eyes approached us. "Mrs. Morgan? I'm Officer Davis. We've done a thorough search of your home. There's no sign of forced entry, but we did find someone upstairs." My heart raced. "You caught them? Who is it?" Officer Davis's expression was puzzling. Not the stern look of someone who had apprehended a criminal, but rather an uncertain, almost apologetic expression. "Ma'am, the woman claims to be your daughter." "My daughter?" I gasped. "That's impossible. Rachel lives 3 hours away. She's at work today." She identified herself as Rachel Morgan. The officer continued gently. "She has identification that matches that name, and she has keys to your house. She says she wanted to surprise you." Bewildered, I shook my head. There must be some mistake. Rachel would have told me if she was coming. We spoke just 2 days ago and she mentioned nothing about a visit. "Would you like to come inside and confirm if it's your daughter?" Officer Davis asked. Still in disbelief, I nodded. I turned to Annie, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes. "Thank you again for being so vigilant. I'm terribly sorry for the fright you must have had." Annie gave me a gentle smile. "Would you like me to stay?" I could come back another day to finish the cleaning. That would be best, I think. I agreed, my mind still reeling. I followed Officer Davis up the familiar path to my front door, trying to make sense of what was happening. As I stepped into my living room, I saw another officer standing with a woman whose back was turned. When the woman heard us enter, she spun around, and I froze in place. It was indeed Rachel, my Rachel, standing in the middle of the living room looking simultaneously embarrassed and concerned. "Mom," Rachel exclaimed, rushing forward. "Are you okay? I'm so sorry about all this." I stared at my daughter in astonishment. "Rachel, what on earth are you doing here? You nearly gave poor Annie a heart attack. Not to mention what you did to mine." Rachel's face fell. "I wanted to surprise you. I took a few days off work to come help you sort through Dad's things in the attic like we talked about. I thought I'd be here when you got back from your appointment." The officers exchanged glances, clearly relieved that this was a family misunderstanding rather than a crime in progress. Officer Davis cleared his throat. "So this is definitely your daughter, Mrs. Morgan?" "Yes," I sighed, the tension in my body beginning to dissolve into exhaustion. "This is Rachel, my daughter." After taking a few more details and ensuring everyone was all right, the officers prepared to leave. "Just a communication mix-up," Officer Davis said kindly. "Happens more often than you might think. We're just glad everyone's safe." When the police had gone, I sank into my favorite armchair, my legs suddenly feeling weak. "You gave me the fright of my life, Rachel. I thought someone had broken in." Rachel sat on the couch across from me, looking thoroughly chastened. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I really thought it would be a nice surprise. I didn't know you had hired someone to clean today. It was my first time having Annie over," I explained. "When she called saying there was a woman in the house, I shuddered, remembering the fear that had gripped me. I heard someone downstairs and assumed it was you home early," Rachel said. "I was upstairs getting settled in my old room. I was planning to make lunch for when you got back." I shook my head, a small smile finally finding its way to my lips. "Only you would think breaking into your mother's house would be a pleasant surprise." "I didn't break in. I used my key," Rachel protested, though she was starting to smile too. "You know what I mean," I replied. "A phone call would have been nice." We sat in silence for a moment, the adrenaline of the situation slowly ebbing away. I studied my daughter's face. The same warm brown eyes, the same slightly crooked smile she'd inherited from her father. But there was something different about her too, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. "So," I finally said, "you came to help with your father's things? After all these years?" Rachel nodded, her expression turning more serious. "You mentioned on our call last week that you were thinking about finally going through the attic. I know how hard that's been for you. I thought maybe we could do it together." I felt a lump form in my throat. Jim's belongings had been carefully packed away in the attic after his death, and I had never found the courage to sort through them properly. Every time I considered it, the grief would wash over me anew, and I would close the attic door, promising myself I'd do it another day. Now nearly 30 years had passed. "That's thoughtful of you," I said softly, "but a little warning would have been nice." Rachel ran a hand through her hair, a gesture so like her father's that it made my heart ache. "I know. It was silly of me. I remembered how you used to love surprises when I was little. Remember how Dad and I would make you breakfast in bed for your birthday and pretend we'd forgotten? You always acted so surprised, even though we did it every year." The memory brought a genuine smile to my face. Those were different kinds of surprises, not the "there's an intruder in your house" kind. Rachel laughed, the tension between us easing. "Fair point. I didn't think it through. But now that I'm here..." She hesitated. "Are you still up for tackling the attic?" I considered the question. I had been putting this off for decades, using every excuse imaginable. But having Rachel here, offering to share the emotional burden, felt like a gift I hadn't known I needed. "I think I am," I said slowly. "But not today. Today has been excitement enough. Let's have a cup of tea, and you can tell me what's really going on with you." Rachel looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "Sweetheart, I've known you your entire life. You don't take days off work on a whim, And you don't suddenly decide to drive 3 hours to go through boxes that have been sitting untouched for 30 years. I leaned forward, studying my daughter's face. What's really brought you here? Rachel's eyes darted away, confirming my suspicion that there was more to this surprise visit. I can't just want to help my mother? Of course you can. But there's something else. I reached out and took her hand. You can tell me anything, you know that. Rachel was quiet for a long moment, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of a throw pillow. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I found something, Mom. Something about Dad. I felt my heart skip a beat. What do you mean? I was going through some old papers in my filing cabinet last month, Rachel explained, still not meeting my eyes. I found an envelope addressed to me from Dad. It was sealed and I don't know why I never opened it before. Maybe I was afraid of what it might say, of facing that grief again. My throat felt dry. And you opened it now? Rachel nodded slowly. It was a letter he wrote to me before he died. He must have known he was sicker than he let on. She finally looked up at me, her eyes swimming with tears. Mom, there were things in that letter. Things about his life before you met, things he wanted me to know when I was older. And there was something else. He mentioned a box in the attic with his initials carved on the side. He said if I ever read the letter, I should find that box. That it would explain everything. My living room had fallen utterly silent. The only sound was the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner, a wedding gift from Jim's parents all those years ago. I stared at my daughter, trying to process what she had just told me. A box in the attic? I finally said. With his initials? Rachel nodded, pulling a folded piece of paper from her pocket. Here's the letter. I thought you should read it too. With trembling hands, I accepted the letter. The paper was yellowed with age, but Jim's handwriting was unmistakable. The same neat, precise penmanship that had filled birthday cards and love notes throughout our marriage. I unfolded it carefully, as if it might crumble at my touch. My dearest Rachel, the letter began. If you're reading this, then I'm no longer with you and your mother. I hope you're reading this as a grown woman who has found her place in the world. Though it breaks my heart to think of all the moments of your life I will miss. I had to pause, overwhelmed by the sound of my husband's voice echoing in my mind as I read his words. I took a deep breath and continued. The letter spoke of his love for Rachel and for me, his regrets about leaving us too soon, his hopes for his daughter's future. And then came the part that made my heart race. There are things about my life before I met your mother that I've never shared with either of you. Not because I wanted to keep secrets, but because some stories are complicated, and I never found the right moment to tell them. In the attic of our home, there is a wooden box with my initials JM carved into the lid. Inside are pieces of my past that I want you to know about now. Understanding where you come from is important, Rachel. It helps you understand who you are. I lowered the letter, my mind whirling with questions. In 30 years of marriage, I had thought I knew everything about Jim. What could possibly be in that box that he had never shared with me? Did you know about this box? Rachel asked gently. I shook my head. I packed away his things after the funeral, but I couldn't bear to look through them carefully. His mother helped me. We just put everything in boxes and stored them in the attic. I never noticed anything with his initials. Rachel leaned forward, her eyes searching my face. Are you okay, Mom? I didn't mean to spring all this on you. It's a lot to take in, I admitted. I folded the letter carefully and handed it back to Rachel. And you came here to find this box? I thought we could look for it together, Rachel said. Whatever Dad wanted me to know, I think you should know it too. Unless. She hesitated. Unless you'd rather not. I understand if it's too painful. I considered this. Part of me was afraid of what we might find. What secrets could Jim have kept from me all those years? But a stronger part of me needed to know, to understand this missing piece of the man I had loved with all my heart. No, I said firmly. We'll look for it together. Tomorrow morning, when we're both rested. That evening, we ordered pizza and sat at the kitchen table, catching up on the smaller details of our lives that sometimes got lost in our weekly phone calls. Rachel talked about her work at the hospital, the new apartment she'd moved into last spring, the book club she'd joined. I shared stories about my garden, my bridge group, the stray cat I'd been feeding on my back porch. But underneath the comfortable conversation ran an undercurrent of anticipation, of questions unanswered. What would we find in Jim's box tomorrow? What pieces of himself had he kept hidden all these years? That night, I lay awake in bed, listening to the familiar sounds of my house. The hum of the refrigerator, the occasional car passing on the street outside, the creaking of the floorboards as the old house settled. And now, the soft sounds of Rachel sleeping in her childhood bedroom down the hall, a comfort I hadn't realized how much I'd missed. I thought about Jim, about the life we'd built together. We had met when I was 23, working as a receptionist at the local library. He came in every Saturday morning to check out books on architecture and history. It took him 3 months to work up the courage to ask me to coffee, and another 6 months before he proposed. Our wedding had been small but perfect, just close family and friends in the garden of my parents' home. Before me, I knew he had grown up in a small town about 50 miles away. His parents were kind but reserved people who visited a few times a year. He rarely spoke about his childhood, and I had never pressed him on it, assuming it had been ordinary, perhaps even a little dull. He had told me he'd gone to college for a year before dropping out to work, that he'd traveled a bit before settling in Millfield where we met. Had there been signs that he was holding back parts of his story? Now, looking back through the lens of this mysterious letter, I wondered if there had been moments when he seemed about to tell me something important, only to change the subject. Little comments that didn't quite fit with what I knew of his past. But we had been so happy together, so focused on building our present and future, that I had never thought to question the gaps in his history. Morning came too soon and not soon enough. I found Rachel already in the kitchen, brewing coffee and toasting bread. "I hope you don't mind," Rachel said, gesturing to the breakfast preparations. I couldn't sleep past 6. Neither could I admitted, accepting a cup of coffee gratefully. We ate in companionable silence, each lost in our own thoughts. When we had finished and cleared away the dishes, Rachel looked at me questioningly. "Are you ready?" I nodded. "Let's go see what your father left for us." The attic stairs creaked as we climbed them, dust motes dancing in the streams of sunlight that filtered through the small window at the end of the space. The attic was cluttered but organized, labeled boxes stacked against the walls, old furniture draped with sheets, holiday decorations in clear plastic bins. "I marked all of your father's boxes with blue tape," I said, pointing to a section under the eaves. "That's where we should start looking." We began carefully opening each box, sifting through Jim's old clothes, books, college papers, and mementos. It was a strange archaeology of a life. Pencil stubs from his drafting work, a collection of matchbooks from restaurants long closed, ticket stubs from concerts and movies we had attended together. "Look at this," Rachel said softly, holding up a small notebook. "Dad's sketches." We paused to flip through pages of Jim's architectural drawings, buildings he had admired, houses he had dreamed of designing, and many, many sketches of our own home, with notes for improvements he had planned to make before his illness took hold. "I'd forgotten what a good artist he was," I murmured, tracing a finger over a detailed drawing of our backyard garden. We continued searching, box after box, the morning stretching into afternoon. I was beginning to wonder if we would find the mysterious carved box at all when Rachel called out from the far corner of the attic. "Mom, I think this is it." I made my way carefully around piles of Christmas ornaments and old suitcases to where Rachel was kneeling beside a trunk I hadn't seen in years. The old cedar chest that had belonged to Jim's grandfather. "It's not in here," Rachel explained, "but I found something else. Look." In the bottom of the trunk, beneath layers of old quilts and photo albums, was a key taped to a small index card. Written on the card in Jim's handwriting were the words, "For the box. When it's time." "He locked it," I said softly. Whatever's in that box, he wanted to make sure it was protected. With renewed determination, we continued our search. It was Rachel who finally spotted it, tucked behind an old dress form that I had used for sewing when Rachel was small. "There." She pointed to a polished wooden box about the size of a bread box, partially covered by a folded tablecloth. Even from a distance, we could see the carved initials on the lid, J.M., James Edward Morgan. Together, We carefully moved the dress form aside and retrieved the box. It was heavier than I expected, made of rich, dark wood with brass hinges and a small lock on the front. The craftsmanship was exquisite. Not something mass-produced, but a piece that had been made with care and skill. "It's beautiful," Rachel breathed, running her fingers over her father's initials. "I've never seen it before." "Neither have I admitted. He must have kept it hidden." We carried the box and the key down to the living room, setting it carefully on the coffee table. For a moment, neither of us moved to open it, each suddenly hesitant to discover what secrets it might contain. "What do you think is inside?" Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I shook my head. "I don't know. But your father wanted us to find it. He wanted you to know whatever is in there." Rachel held out the key. "You should open it, Mom." With slightly trembling hands, I took the key and inserted it into the small lock. It turned smoothly, as if it had been recently oiled. The lid opened with a soft creak, revealing its contents. On top was an envelope addressed simply, "For Rosaline and Rachel." Beneath it were stacks of photographs, letters tied with faded ribbon, a small velvet jewelry box, and what looked like official documents. "Another letter," Rachel said softly. I picked up the envelope, noting that it was sealed, unlike the one Rachel had found among her own papers. I opened it carefully and pulled out several pages covered in Jim's familiar handwriting. "Should I read it aloud?" I asked Rachel, who nodded, her eyes fixed on the letter as if it might somehow conjure her father's presence. I cleared my throat and began to read. "My beloved Rosaline and my dear Rachel, if you're reading this together, then Rachel has found my first letter, and you've discovered this box. I've wrestled for years with whether to share this story with you. In the end, I decided that the truth, however complicated, is better than silence. Before I met you, Rosaline, before I became the man you knew and loved, I had another name. I was born Joshua Elliott Matthews in a small town called Riverside, about 100 miles from here. The documents in this box include my original birth certificate and the legal papers for my name change when I was 23. I changed my name because I was running away from a past that was too painful to carry with me. My father was not the kind, quiet man I told you about. He was violent and cruel, particularly when he drank, which was often. My mother, my sister Annie, and I lived in fear of his temper. The yellowed newspaper clipping in this box is from the local paper reporting his arrest after he put my mother in the hospital when I was 16. I paused, my heart aching for the young man Jim had been, for the pain he had carried alone all those years. Rachel reached across and squeezed my hand, encouraging me to continue. Taking a deep breath, I continued reading Jim's letter, his words bringing to life a past I had never known existed. After my father went to prison, my mother, Annie, and I moved in with my grandmother. We tried to rebuild our lives, but my mother never recovered from the years of abuse. She began drinking heavily, following the same destructive path as my father. When I was 19, she died of liver failure. Annie was just 17 then. I did my best to take care of her, working construction jobs during the day and taking classes at the community college at night. But I was angry and lost, carrying wounds I didn't know how to heal. Then I met Catherine. She was a customer at the diner where I worked weekends, beautiful, kind, from a good family. We fell in love quickly, desperately, the way young people do. The photos in the small album are from our time together. In one of them, you'll see Annie with us at the lake. She adored Catherine, and for a while, it seemed like we might actually find happiness despite everything. But the darkness I carried from my childhood kept surfacing. I had terrible nightmares, unpredictable mood swings. Sometimes I would disappear for days, unable to face Catherine or Annie, terrified that the violence I'd grown up with was somehow in my blood, that I would eventually hurt them the way my father had hurt us. Catherine tried to help me. She begged me to get counseling, to talk about what had happened, to let her in. But I couldn't. I didn't know how. And so I pushed her away, again and again, until finally, she had no choice but to leave. What I didn't know then, what I wouldn't learn until much later, was that she was pregnant when she left. In the jewelry box, you'll find a ring. I had bought it for Catherine, but never found the courage to give it to her. I was too afraid of what kind of husband and father I might become. I paused, my hands trembling slightly. I glanced at Rachel, whose face had gone pale. "Mom," Rachel whispered. "What is he saying?" I shook my head slightly, indicating that we should continue reading to understand. I turned back to the letter. After Catherine left, I spiraled further. Annie tried to help me, but I pushed her away too. Eventually, she moved to California to live with our aunt. I was completely alone, exactly as I thought I deserved to be. I changed my name to James Edward Morgan, taking my grandmother's maiden name, and moved to Millfield for a fresh start. I told myself and everyone I met a simpler version of my history. I created the parents you thought were my mother and father, Rosaline, a kind, retired couple who lived out of state. The people who visited occasionally were actually my uncle and his wife, who agreed to play along with my deception. And then I met you, my darling Rosaline. From the first moment I saw you at the library desk, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: hope. You were so full of light, so genuine and kind. I fell in love with you completely, but I was terrified of bringing my darkness into your life. I almost walked away. But then one afternoon, you told me about losing your own father when you were young, about how your mother had raised you alone. You spoke with such strength and compassion. It was the first time I thought that perhaps my past didn't have to define my future. Even then, I couldn't bring myself to tell you the truth. I was afraid you would see me differently, that you wouldn't want me if you knew where I came from. So I kept my secret, telling myself that James Morgan was who I really was now, that Joshua Matthews and all his pain could stay buried in the past. I reconnected with Annie after we were married. The woman you knew as my cousin visiting from California was actually my sister. She kept my secret, happy that I had found peace with you. And then, 5 years into our marriage, I received a letter from Catherine. She had tracked me down through Annie. In the letter, she told me something that shook my world to its foundations. We had a daughter together. Her name was Emily and she was 5 years old. Catherine wasn't asking for anything. She had married a good man who had adopted Emily legally. She just thought I had the right to know. She included a photo, which you'll find in the small blue envelope. I looked at that little girl's face, at my daughter, and saw my own eyes looking back at me. I was devastated, Rosaline. Not just because I had a child I hadn't known about, but because I realized how deeply my fears and inability to face my past had cost me. I had lost the chance to know my firstborn daughter. I nearly told you everything then, but we had just learned you were pregnant with Rachel, and you were so happy, so excited about starting our family. I couldn't bear to shatter that joy with my revelation, so I kept my secret again, promising myself that someday, when the time was right, I would tell you the whole truth. I had to stop reading for a moment, tears blurring my vision. Rachel reached out and took the letter gently from my hands. "Let me read the rest, Mom," she offered softly. I nodded, wiping my eyes as Rachel continued. I wrote back to Catherine, thanking her for telling me about Emily. We exchanged a few more letters over the years, and she would occasionally send photos of Emily growing up. I kept them all in this box, hidden away with my other secrets. And then you were born, my beautiful Rachel. And I fell in love all over again. Being your father healed parts of me I thought would always be broken. I learned that I could be gentle, patient, loving. Everything my own father was not. You and your mother taught me that I wasn't destined to repeat the patterns of my childhood. As you grew, I often thought about Emily, wondered what kind of young woman she was becoming. Sometimes when I looked at you, Rachel, I would see glimpses of her in your smile, or the way you tilted your head when you were thinking hard about something. You have a half-sister you've never met, and I am so sorry for keeping that from you. I had finally worked up the courage to tell you both everything when I received my cancer diagnosis. Suddenly, there seemed to be so little time, and I didn't want my final months with you to be overshadowed by revelations about a past I could no longer change. So I wrote these letters instead, hoping that when you found them, you would understand why I kept these secrets, and perhaps find it in your hearts to forgive me. There is one more thing you should know. In the last year of my life, I reached out to Emily directly. She was 22 by then, about to graduate from college. We exchanged several letters, getting to know each other a little. She was kind and understanding, far more than I deserved. In our last exchange before I became too ill to write, she expressed interest in someday meeting you both. Her contact information, at least what was current when I wrote this, is in the small address book. Whether you choose to reach out to her is entirely your decision. I would understand if this is too much to process, too painful a revelation to act upon. Rosaline, my love, I am so sorry for not being honest with you from the beginning. You deserve to know the man you were really marrying, not the sanitized version I presented. Please know that my love for you was never a lie. It was the most true and real thing in my life. And Rachel, my darling daughter, I hope knowing the full truth about where you come from helps you understand yourself better. You are the best of me, without the weight of my mistakes and fears. I love you both more than words can express. I hope that someday you can forgive me for the secrets I kept. Always and forever, Jim and Joshua. Rachel lowered the letter, her cheeks wet with tears. For a long moment, neither of us spoke, the weight of Jim's revelations hanging in the air between us. I have a sister, Rachel finally whispered, her voice a mix of wonder and confusion. I nodded slowly, trying to process everything I had just learned about the man I had loved for 3 decades. My mind was reeling with questions, with images of a young man suffering abuse I had never known about, carrying wounds he had hidden from me our entire marriage. I never knew, I said softly. All those years, and I never suspected. He was protecting us, Rachel said, though her voice held a note of uncertainty. At least he thought he was. Or himself, I added, not unkindly. Sometimes the hardest person to forgive is yourself. We began carefully examining the other contents of the box. The photographs of Jim, or Joshua, as he had been then, with Catherine showed a handsome young couple, smiling despite the shadows in his eyes. Annie appeared in several pictures, a petite woman with the same warm smile as her brother. The small blue envelope contained photos of Emily at various ages. A toddler with curly hair, a girl of about 10 holding a soccer ball, a teenager in a graduation gown, and finally, a young woman whose resemblance to Rachel was subtle but undeniable. She has Dad's eyes, Rachel said softly, holding the most recent photo next to her own face. Just like I do. I opened the small velvet jewelry box to find a delicate diamond ring. The one Jim had bought for Catherine but never given her. The legal documents confirmed everything he had written. His original birth certificate as Joshua Matthews, the name change papers, and a few newspaper clippings about his father's arrest. Finally, we found the small address book. The last page contained a single entry. Emily Matthews Taylor, with an address in Boston, a phone number, and an email address that would be over a decade old by now. Do you think she still lives there? Rachel wondered aloud. Do you think she'd want to hear from us after all this time? I carefully closed the box, needing a moment to collect my thoughts. My husband, the kind, gentle man I had loved, had lived a whole other life before me, carried pain I had never suspected. I felt a complex tangle of emotions. Hurt that he hadn't trusted me with his truth, compassion for the broken young man he had been, and wonder at how he had overcome so much to become the loving husband and father I had known. Mom. Rachel's voice pulled me from my thoughts. Are you angry with Dad? I considered the question carefully. No, I said finally. Sad, perhaps, that he carried this burden alone for so long. But not angry. He did the best he could with the wounds he had. What about Emily? Rachel pressed. Should we try to find her? That's a big decision, I said. One we don't have to make right now. Let's give ourselves some time to process all of this first. Rachel nodded, carefully gathering the photos and letters and returning them to the box. It's strange, she said quietly. I came here thinking we'd be sorting through Dad's old sweaters and books, maybe finding some keepsakes to bring home. I never imagined we'd discover a whole other family we didn't know existed. Life has a way of surprising us, I replied, sometimes in ways we never could have imagined. As we sat together in the living room, surrounded by the physical evidence of Jim's hidden past, I thought about the cleaning lady, Annie, who had been so frightened by the stranger in the house yesterday. It seemed almost prophetic now. A woman in the house we didn't know about, a presence that had disrupted our sense of security and familiar routine, just as Emily's existence had done today. Later that evening, as we sat on the back porch watching the sunset, Rachel broke the comfortable silence. I think we should try to find her. Emily, I mean. She's family after all. I looked at my daughter, seeing Jim and her determined expression. Are you sure? It might not be simple. She has her own life, her own family. She might not want to revisit the past. Dad said she was interested in meeting us, Rachel pointed out. And that was years ago, I know. But I keep thinking, what if she's been wondering about us all this time too? What if she's been hoping we'd find her someday? I couldn't help but smile at my daughter's optimism. Another trait she had inherited from Jim. All right, I said. But let's be thoughtful about how we approach this. Maybe we start with an email, something that gives her the space to respond in her own time. Rachel nodded eagerly. We could do it together before I head back home. Unless. She hesitated, suddenly uncertain. Unless you'd rather wait? I reached over and took my daughter's hand. No. I think your father waited long enough to bring this family together. Let's not wait any longer. The next morning, Rachel sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, staring at a blank email draft. I stood behind her, a comforting hand on her shoulder. What do you say to a sister you never knew existed? Rachel wondered aloud, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Hello, you don't know me, but I'm your long-lost sister seems a bit abrupt. I smiled gently. Start with the truth. Tell her who you are and how you found out about her. The rest will follow naturally. Rachel nodded and began to type, carefully crafting an email that explained our recent discovery, our connection to Jim Morgan, formerly Joshua Matthews, and our hope to perhaps establish contact if Emily was open to it. We attached a current photo of the two of us and included our phone numbers and email addresses. There, Rachel said after we had both read through it several times. I think that covers everything without being too overwhelming. Should I send it? Yes, I said, though my heart fluttered with nervousness. Let's do it. With a deep breath, Rachel clicked send. The email disappeared into the digital ether, carrying with it our hopes and uncertainties. Now all we could do was wait. The email might not even work anymore, Rachel said, closing her laptop. It's been over a decade since Dad had that address. We'll find other ways if we need to, I assured her. But for now, let's give it some time. We spent the rest of the day continuing to sort through Jim's belongings in the attic, though with less urgency than before. Now we were simply organizing, setting aside keepsakes for Rachel to take home, donating what we didn't need, reminiscing about the man we had both loved so dearly. That evening, Annie the cleaning lady called to reschedule her interrupted cleaning session. I found myself smiling at the name. Another Annie in my life, just like Jim's sister whom I had known only as his cousin from California. I wondered if the real Annie was still alive. If she might be another connection to Jim's past we could rediscover. Of course, come on Thursday, I told her. And Annie, thank you again for being so alert yesterday. Even though it turned out to be my daughter, your caution was exactly right. I'm just glad everything worked out, Annie replied warmly. See you Thursday. Rachel was scheduled to drive back home the following day. We had accomplished what she had come for, though in a way neither of us could have anticipated. As we sat on the porch swing after dinner, I found myself wondering what Jim would think of our discovery, of our reaching out to Emily. I think he'd be relieved, Rachel said when I shared this thought, to finally have everything in the open. I nodded. I just wish he could have told us himself, that he could have known it was safe to share his whole self with us. Some wounds run too deep, Rachel said softly, but he found a way to tell us in the end. That counts for something. We were just getting ready for bed when Rachel's laptop chimed with a new email notification. We exchanged a startled look, both thinking the same thing but afraid to hope. It might just be work, Rachel cautioned as she opened her computer. But it wasn't work. The subject line read, Connection through Jim Morgan/Joshua Matthews. Rachel's hand flew to her mouth, and she looked up at me with wide eyes. It's her, she whispered. Emily replied. Together, we read the email. Dear Rachel and Rosaline, I can't tell you how surprised and moved I was to receive your email. I've thought about both of you so many times over the years, especially after my correspondence with Joshua, as I knew him before he passed away. Yes, this is still my email address. I've kept it active all these years, partly hoping that someday this exact message might arrive. I would very much like to meet you both. As it happens, I now live in Cleveland, just about 2 hours from Millfield. I'm a pediatric nurse, married with 2 children of my own. Josh, who is 8, named after the father I never really knew, and Lily, who is 5. If you're comfortable with it, I could drive down this weekend. Or if you prefer to take things more slowly, we could start with a phone call or video chat. Thank you for reaching out. It means more than I can express. Warmly, Emily. She had included her phone number and attached a recent photo of herself with her husband and children. The little boy, Josh, had Jim's eyes. The same eyes that looked back at Rachel from her mirror every morning. She named her son after Dad, Rachel said, her voice thick with emotion. And she's a nurse too, just like you. I felt tears welling in my eyes. She's been waiting to hear from us all this time. What should we do? Rachel asked, looking to me for guidance. Should we invite her here this weekend? Is that too soon? I thought about it for a moment. My initial instinct was caution, to suggest a phone call first, to ease into this new relationship gradually. But then I thought about all the years already lost, about Jim's reluctance to bring these parts of his life together, and how that hesitation had cost us all so much time. Tell her to come. I decided. Tell her to bring her family if she wants to. It's time this family was whole. Rachel's face lit up with a smile that reminded me so much of Jim it made my heart ache. I'll stay through the weekend then, she said, already typing a reply. That night, I lay awake again, but this time my mind wasn't racing with questions and confusion. Instead, I felt a strange sense of peace. Jim had kept his secrets, yes, but in his own way, he had also ensured that the truth would eventually come to light. He had created a path for his 2 daughters to find each other, for his fragmented family to potentially become whole. I thought about the woman who would be visiting us on Saturday, Emily, the daughter Jim had never had the chance to raise, but had found the courage to reach out to in his final years. I wondered what she would be like, what pieces of Jim I might recognize in her, what stories we might share. And I thought about Annie, the real Annie, Jim's sister, who had kept his secrets all these years. Perhaps Emily would know how to contact her. Perhaps there were even more pieces of Jim's life waiting to be discovered, more connections to be made. The following days passed in a blur of preparation. Rachel extended her stay, helping me clean the house thoroughly, without needing to reschedule Annie this time, prepare the guest bedroom, and bake Jim's favorite cookies. A detail I had shared with Emily in our email exchanges, and which Emily had said she'd love to try. We spoke on the phone once, a slightly awkward but warm conversation where Emily's laugh, so like Rachel's, had brought tears to my eyes. We had agreed that Emily and her family would arrive Saturday morning, and stay through Sunday if all went well. Saturday dawned bright and clear, a perfect early autumn day. I was up before the sun, too nervous and excited to sleep. Rachel joined me in the kitchen shortly after, and together we prepared a welcome brunch, moving around each other with the easy familiarity of mother and daughter. What if it's awkward? Rachel worried as she set the table. What if we don't know what to say to each other? It probably will be awkward at first, I admitted. But that's okay. We have time to get to know each other. Today is just the beginning. At precisely 10 o'clock, the same time Annie the cleaning lady had arrived just days before, setting this whole chain of events in motion, the doorbell rang. Rachel and I exchanged a nervous glance, then moved together to the front door. I took a deep breath and opened the door to find a woman with Jim's eyes and Catherine's smile standing on my porch. Behind her was a tall man with glasses and 2 children half hiding behind their parents' legs, peering curiously at the strangers who were somehow family. Emily, I said, my voice wavering slightly. The woman nodded, tears already forming in her eyes. And you must be Rosaline. And Rachel. There was a moment of uncertainty. Should we shake hands? Hug. What was the protocol for meeting the family you never knew you had? It was Rachel who broke the ice, stepping forward and embracing her half-sister without hesitation. I'm so glad you came, she said, her voice choked with emotion. And just like that, the awkwardness melted away. Emily introduced her husband Austin and their children Josh and Lily. Soon we were all inside, the adults talking over coffee while the children explored the backyard under Austin's watchful eye. "I brought something I thought you might want to see," Emily said, reaching into her bag and pulling out a small photo album. "These are some of the letters your father, our father, wrote to me, and photos my mother kept of him from when they were young." As we pored over these new glimpses into Jim's life, I was struck by how different and yet how familiar this younger version of my husband seemed. There was the same thoughtfulness in his eyes, the same slight tilt to his smile, though without the ease and confidence he had developed in later years. "My mother always spoke kindly of him," Emily shared. "She said he was a good man who had been hurt too deeply to heal in the time they had together. She never wanted me to think badly of him for not being in my life." "That was generous of her," I said softly. Emily nodded. "She remarried when I was 3. My dad, the man who raised me. He's wonderful. But I always wondered about my biological father. When he reached out to me in his final year, it meant everything to me to finally know him, even just through letters." "I wish you could have met him in person," Rachel said. "He was the best dad. He wrote about you a lot," Emily told her with a smile. "How proud he was of you. How much he loved seeing you grow up." Rachel blinked back tears. "Did he?" Emily reached into the album and pulled out a letter, handling it carefully. "This is the last one he sent me. I thought you might like to read it." Rachel and I read it together, finding in Jim's words to his firstborn daughter the same love, wisdom, and gentle humor that had defined him as we knew him. In writing to Emily about his illness, about his regrets and hopes, he had revealed the same core of strength and kindness that had made him such a beloved husband and father. He was the same person, I realized aloud. Despite everything, despite the name change and the secrets, the man I loved was real. Emily smiled at me. "He wrote about you too. How you saved him. How you showed him what love could really be." I felt a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying lift from my shoulders. Whatever name he had used, whatever past he had hidden, the life we had built together had been authentic. The love had been real. Throughout the day we shared stories, filled in gaps in each other's understanding, and began the delicate process of building a new kind of family. The children warmed up quickly, little Josh proudly telling Rachel how he was named after a grandfather he had never met, but who had been a hero according to his mother. "Do you know what happened to Annie?" I asked as we prepared dinner together. "Jim's sister. She's still in California," Emily replied. "We've been in touch since Joshua reached out to me. She's the one who gave him my address." "I'd like to meet her someday," I said, "to thank her for keeping his secret when he needed her to, and for helping him find his way back to you in the end." Emily smiled. "I think she'd like that very much." As evening fell, we gathered on the back porch, watching the children chase fireflies in the yard. Austin and Rachel were deep in conversation about their shared interest in healthcare. He was a physical therapist, while Emily and I sat side by side on the porch swing. "It's strange," Emily said softly. "I've imagined this day for so long, meeting the family my father had. And now that it's happening, it feels both completely surreal and somehow exactly right." I nodded. "I know what you mean. When Rachel first told me about finding his letter, about this mysterious box in the attic, I was terrified of what we might discover. I thought it might somehow diminish the life we'd shared, the man I thought I knew." I looked out at my expanded family, my daughter, this new daughter in heart, the grandchildren I had never expected to have, and felt a profound sense of peace. Instead, it's made our family larger. It's completed a circle that's been open for too long. "Do you think he'd be happy about this?" Emily asked, following my gaze to where little Josh was showing Rachel how high he could jump. "I know he would," I said with certainty. "This is exactly what he wanted. Even if he couldn't bring himself to make it happen during his lifetime. He left us the map to find each other. He trusted us to finish what he couldn't." Emily squeezed my hand. "Thank you for welcoming us like this. It would have been easy to resent me, to see me as a reminder of a painful secret." I shook my head. How could I resent someone who brings more of Jim back into our lives? Every time I look at Josh, I see his grandfather's eyes. Every time I hear you laugh, I hear echoes of the man I loved. These aren't painful reminders. They're gifts. Later that night, after the children were asleep in the guest room, and the adults had stayed up far too late talking, sharing photos, and beginning to build the bridges between our lives, I stood at my bedroom window, looking out at the peaceful street where I had lived for so many years. So much had changed in just a few short days. What had begun with a frightening phone call from a cleaning lady about an intruder in my home had led to the discovery of secrets long buried, and ultimately, to the expansion of my family in ways I never could have imagined. I thought about calling Annie to thank her again, not just for her vigilance that day, but for inadvertently setting in motion this chain of revelations and reconciliations. If Annie hadn't called about Rachel being in the house, we might never have found Jim's box in the attic, never discovered the letter, never reached out to Emily. It was strange how life worked sometimes. How moments of fear and confusion could lead to healing and connection. How the discovery of a stranger in your house could ultimately make your home more complete than it had ever been. As I finally climbed into bed, I thought about Jim and the journey his life had taken, from the abused boy Joshua to the loving father and husband James. I wished I could tell him that it was okay, that I understood why he had kept his secrets, that I forgave him completely. I wished I could thank him for finding a way, even after his death, to make our family whole. But perhaps, I thought as sleep began to claim me, he already knew. Perhaps somewhere he was watching his daughters finally meet, his grandson who carried his name, his family coming full circle at last. And perhaps that was enough. Thank you so much for watching The Stranger Upstairs. If this story touched your heart or resonated with you in any way, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming true stories every week. Do you have a family secret that changed everything when it was revealed? Or perhaps a surprising reunion that brought healing to your life? Share your experiences in the comments below. Our community loves to connect through these shared human moments. And remember, sometimes the most frightening moments in our lives can lead to the most beautiful revelations. Sometimes a stranger in your house isn't a threat, but a gift, a missing piece of your story finally coming home. Until next time, take care of each other, and don't be afraid to open those boxes in your attic. You never know what treasures they might contain. At Virtuous Stories, we love you.